Welcome back to Bargirl Baddies. Today's story comes from James, a 28-year-old Australian from Perth, who thought learning his girlfriend's language would bring them closer together. Instead, it revealed the truth that destroyed everything he believed about love, family, and trust. Sometimes understanding too much is the real curse. This one stays with you long after it's over. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. If you've ever found yourself in a relationship where the language barrier hid more than it revealed, hit that like button and subscribe. You're not alone. And if you've got your own story to share, we read every single comment. Trust me, this community gets it. Now, let's hear from James. My name's James, and the first need to tell you about the worst mistake I ever made. Not the falling in love part, not even the moving halfway across the world part. The mistake was thinking that understanding someone's words meant I understood their heart. I was so bloody wrong. 2 years ago, I was living in Perth, working logistics for a mining company. Good money, shit hours, and a life that felt like I was sleepwalking through it. I'd wake up, go to the gym, sit in an office moving numbers around spreadsheets, come home to an empty apartment, and do it all again the next day. I was 26 then, and I felt about 50. My last relationship had ended badly about 8 months before. She'd cheated with a mate of mine, and the whole thing left me feeling like I'd been gutted. I didn't trust anyone anymore, didn't really want to. I started watching YouTube videos late at night when I couldn't sleep, travel stuff mostly. Guys my age who packed it in and moved to Southeast Asia, living on beaches, working remotely, looking genuinely happy for the first time in their lives. Thailand kept coming up. The beaches, the food, the cost of living, the people. It looked like everything Perth wasn't. Warm, vibrant, alive. I booked a month off work. Told my boss I needed it for my mental health, which wasn't a lie. Landed in Bangkok in February, which, if you've never been to Thailand in the cool season, feels like actual paradise after a Perth summer. The heat was there, but it was manageable. And everything smelled like grilled meat and jasmine and incense. I did the usual tourist route. Bangkok for a week, partying in Khao San Road, seeing the temples, eating street food until I thought I'd burst. Then up to Chiang Mai for the mountains and the night markets. Everyone told me to check out the islands, but I'd already done beach holidays. I wanted something different. Someone at my hostel mentioned Isan, the northeastern region. Said it was the real Thailand, not the tourist version. Hardly any foreigners. Authentic, raw. So in my last week, I took a bus to Udon Thani. 12 hours through countryside that looked like it hadn't changed in 100 years. Rice fields stretching forever. Water buffalo standing in flooded paddies. Tiny villages with wooden houses on stilts. When we pulled into Udon Thani, it felt like I'd stepped into a completely different country. No backpackers, no tourist restaurants with English menus. Just Thai life happening all around me. That first night, I walked to a night market near my hotel. The heat was thick and heavy, but there was this energy in the air. Families eating together at plastic tables, kids running around, music blasting from speakers, smoke rising from grills loaded with chicken and pork. I was starving and overwhelmed and completely lost, which is exactly how I like to travel. That's when I met her. She was working at a stall with an older woman, grilling chicken on these metal skewers over charcoal. The smell was incredible. She looked up when I approached, and I swear to God, it felt like something out of a film. She smiled at me, this genuine warm smile, and said in English, "Hello, you want to try?" Very delicious. Her name was Ploy, 26 years old, with this long dark hair she kept tying back because of the heat, wearing a simple t-shirt and jeans, nothing fancy. But there was something about her. She wasn't trying to hustle me or play the Bargirl game. She was just working with her aunt, helping out the family business, and she seemed happy to see a foreigner interested in their food. I ordered half a chicken and some sticky rice, and she insisted I sit at one of their tables. She kept checking on me, asking if it was too spicy, laughing when I struggled with the sticky rice technique. Her English was pretty good, definitely better than my non-existent Thai. She told me she was studying to be a teacher, that she worked the market a few nights a week to help her aunt, that she'd grown up in a village about an hour outside the city. We talked for 2 hours. The market started packing up around us, and I didn't want to leave. She had this way of making me feel like I was the most interesting person she'd ever met. Asking about Australia, about Perth, about why I'd come to Udon Thani of all places. When I told her I wanted to see the real Thailand, she laughed and said most foreigners said that, but then stayed in Bangkok. Before I left, she wrote her line ID on a napkin, said if I wanted, she could show me around Isan, the actual Isan, not the tourist version. I messaged her before I even got back to my hotel. The next 3 days changed everything. She took me to her family's village, this tiny place surrounded by rice fields where everyone knew everyone. Her mother, Yai, cooked this incredible meal for us, som tam and grilled fish and about 15 other dishes. None of them spoke English, but they welcomed me like I was already family. Yai kept putting more food on my plate, smiling at me, and Ploy would translate the basics, laughing at my attempts to say thank you in Thai. Her younger brother, Somchai, took me on his motorcycle to see the local temple. Ploy showed me how to make merit, how to weigh properly, explained the stories behind the Buddha images. Everything felt authentic in a way nothing in my life had felt for years. This wasn't a holiday anymore. This was something else. On my last night in Udon Thani, we sat by the Nong Prajak Park Lake, watching the sunset turn the water gold. She told me about her dreams of becoming a teacher, about wanting to help kids in rural areas get a better education. I told her about feeling lost in Perth, about the breakup, about not knowing what I wanted from life anymore. She listened in a way no one had listened to me in years, really listened, not just waiting for her turn to talk. When I kissed her, she kissed me back, and when I flew back to Perth 3 days later, I already knew I was coming back. We video called every single day for the next 6 months. She'd show me her classroom, her students, the markets, her daily life. I'd show her Perth, but even to me it looked grey and lifeless compared to the world she lived in. My mates thought I was crazy. My parents were concerned. My boss asked if I was having some kind of breakdown. Maybe I was. But for the first time since I could remember, I felt something other than numb. I started learning Thai using apps and YouTube videos. I wanted to surprise her. I wanted to be able to talk to her family properly, to show them I was serious about their daughter. I learned the basics pretty quickly. The script was harder, but the speaking came naturally. I'd practice on my lunch breaks, listen to Thai podcasts on my commute, watch Thai TV shows with subtitles. But here's the thing nobody tells you about Thailand. Central Thai, the official language, isn't what everyone speaks at home. In Isan, they speak a dialect that's closer to Lao, different vocabulary, different tones, different everything. When I realised this, I got obsessed. I found YouTube channels teaching Isan Dialect. I joined language exchange groups online. I downloaded every resource I could find. I never told Ploy I was learning Isan. I wanted it to be a surprise. Imagined the look on her face when I could speak to her mother in her own language, when I could understand the jokes and the stories in the family conversations. It felt romantic. It felt like the ultimate gesture of commitment. 8 months after I left Udon Thani, I handed in my resignation, cashed out my superannuation early, sold most of my stuff, and booked a one-way ticket. Got myself a 1-year tourist visa. My parents thought I'd lost my mind. My ex sent me a message saying I was running away from my problems. Maybe I was, but it felt like I was running towards something for the first time in my life. Ploy picked me up from the airport in Bangkok. We stayed there for a few days, did the tourist couple thing, then headed up to Udon Thani. She'd found us a small apartment on the outskirts of the city, close enough to her village, but with enough space that we had our own life. It was basic. 1 bedroom, a bathroom with a squat toilet and a bum gun, a tiny kitchen, a balcony that overlooked a construction site. It cost 6,000 baht a month. That's about 250 Australian dollars. My rent in Perth had been 1,500. The first few weeks were pure magic. We'd wake up before dawn to go to the morning market. Ploy teaching me the names of vegetables and fruits, negotiating with vendors who'd laugh at my terrible Thai. We'd have coffee at these tiny roadside shops, 20 baht a cup, sitting on plastic stools and watching the city wake up. She'd ride on the back of the motorcycle I'd rented, her arms wrapped around my waist, and we'd cruise through rice fields that seemed to go on forever. Her family treated me like I'd always been there. Every weekend, we'd go to the village. Yai would cook these enormous feasts, and I'd sit with her in the kitchen, watching her pound chili and garlic in a mortar, tasting everything she made, trying to learn the recipes. She'd speak to me in Isan, and I'd understand maybe 30%, but I'd nod and smile and try to respond in my basic Thai. She'd pat my hand and say things to Ploy, who'd translate. She says you're a good man. She's happy I found you. Somchai would take me fishing in the village ponds, teach me how to catch frogs in the rice fields at night, laugh at my squeamishness. The village kids would follow me around, fascinated by the Farang who was living among them. I'd play football with them in the dirt roads, try to learn their games, let them teach me more Thai words. I'd never felt more at home in my life. This was what I'd been missing in Perth. Community, family, purpose. Every morning felt like an adventure. Every meal felt special. Every conversation felt meaningful. 2 months in, Yai got sick. At least that's what Ploy told me. Something with her liver, needed tests, needed medicine. The bill came to 30,000 baht. I didn't even hesitate. That was about 1,200 Australian dollars. Nothing compared to what medical care cost back home. I transferred the money the same day. Ploy cried and hugged me and told me her family would never forget this. Yai held my hands and spoke to me in Isan for 5 minutes straight, tears in her eyes. I understood maybe every 10th word, but I got the meaning. Gratitude. Family. Forever. That's when things started to shift, though I didn't see it then. More requests came. Somchai had a motorcycle accident, needed 50,000 baht for the bike repairs and hospital. The house needed a new roof before monsoon season, another 80,000. Ploy would ask so sweetly, so apologetically. She'd show me the bills, the receipts, the photos of the damage. I'd see her family's faces, their need, their trust in me. How could I say no? My Thai kept improving. My Isan was getting pretty solid too, though I still hadn't revealed this to anyone. I'd catch conversations between Ploy and her mother, understand fragments. Most of it seemed normal. Gossip about neighbours, plans for festivals, complaints about the weather. Sometimes they'd switch to Isan mid-conversation when I entered the room, and I'd pretend not to notice. I figured it was just natural, the way people code switch with family. Nothing sinister, nothing to worry about. I should have worried. By month 6, I'd sent over 200,000 baht to help the family, nearly 8,500 Australian dollars. My savings from years of mining work trickling away. But I told myself this was investment. This was building our future. We'd started talking about marriage, about building a house on her family's land, about me getting a proper visa, maybe teaching English, making a life here permanent. I'd stopped video calling my mates back home as much, stopped checking Australian news, stopped thinking about Perth at all. My world had shrunk to Udon Thani, to this apartment, to Ploy's family, to morning markets and evening meals, and the simple rhythm of rural Thai life. I was comfortable. I was happy. I was blind. Comfort is a dangerous thing. It makes you soft, makes you stop asking questions, makes you believe that the way things are is the way they'll always be. I got comfortable in Udon Thani. Looking back, that comfort cost me everything. My days fell into a routine that felt like belonging. Wake up around 7, coffee at the same roadside shop where the owner knew my order without asking. Thai lessons at a language school. 3 mornings a week, where I was the only foreigner in a class of Laotian migrant workers. Afternoons I'd help out around Ploy's village, fixing things, teaching some of the kids basic English, just being useful. Evenings we'd eat with her family, or we'd cook at the apartment, or we'd meet up with her friends at the night market. I stopped calling my mates back in Perth every week, then every fortnight. Then maybe once a month if I remembered. What was there to talk about? They'd tell me about their mining jobs and their mortgages and their relationship dramas, and it all felt so far away, so irrelevant. They didn't understand what I'd found here. How could they? They were still grinding away in Perth, still living for the weekend, still wondering if there was more to life than this. I'd found the answer. I'd found more. The money requests became more frequent, but they always made sense. Ploy's cousin needed help with university fees. 50,000 baht, about 2,000 Australian. Her aunt's shop needed repairs after a storm. 40,000. Somchai wanted to start a small business selling motorcycle parts. 70,000 for inventory and a stall at the market. Every request came with documentation, photos, receipts. Sometimes I'd even see the results, like when they fixed the roof or when Somchai's stall opened. I checked my Australian bank account less and less. It was getting lower, sure, but I wasn't spending money on myself. No fancy dinners, no expensive hotels, no flights anywhere. Just simple living and helping family. Our family, as I'd started thinking of them. This was what you did when you loved someone. You helped. You provided. You became part of something bigger than yourself. My Isan comprehension had gotten really good by month 7. I could follow most conversations now, even when people spoke quickly. But I kept it secret, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal it. Maybe at a family gathering. Maybe when I proposed to Ploy. I had this whole fantasy of asking for her hand in marriage in Isan Dialect, watching Yai's face light up, everyone realizing how committed I was to truly becoming part of their world. I'd catch more and more of the conversations between Ploy and her mother now. Usually just domestic stuff. What to cook for dinner, which neighbour was having an affair, complaints about the government. Sometimes they talk about money, about bills, about the family's financial situation. I understood it. Rural Thailand wasn't easy, farming didn't pay much. Everyone was hustling, everyone was trying to get by. That's why my help mattered so much. That's why I felt good about giving. There were small moments that I ignored. Times when Ploy would get a phone call and step outside to take it. Times when she'd be texting someone and angle her phone away from me. Times when she'd say she was going to visit a friend but come back with shopping bags she hadn't had when she left. Little things. The kind of things that in hindsight scream red flags, but in the moment you rationalize away because you trust, because you love, because you've built your entire life around believing this is real. It was a Tuesday evening in October when everything shattered. We were at Yai's house for dinner, which happened 3 or 4 times a week. Nothing special, just a regular family meal. Yai had made lap and sticky rice, and we were sitting around eating, laughing, watching Thai game shows on the small TV in the corner. Normal, comfortable, home. Ploy asked me to grab something from the truck outside. Her phone charger, she said. She'd left it in the glove box. I got up, walked out into the humid evening air, found the charger. The truck was parked maybe 10 meters from the house. The windows were open. I was walking back when I heard their voices from the kitchen. Ploy and Yai, speaking in rapid Isan. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I was just walking back. But something in their tone made me stop, made me listen. What I heard in the next 3 minutes destroyed me. Ploy was laughing. Actually laughing. She said something about how much more she'd gotten from me this month. Yai asked her something and I caught the words clearly. Have you told the Norwegian yet that it's finished? The Norwegian. My blood went cold. Ploy responded, no, she was still getting money from both of us. Both Farang, she said. Both foreigners. I stood there, frozen, my hand on the doorframe, unable to move, unable to breathe. Yai said something about being careful. Something about Ploy's cousin who'd gotten caught juggling 2 foreigners and lost both of them. Ploy laughed again and said, I was too kind, too trusting. She said I was learning Thai, but my listening wasn't that good, so they could still talk freely in Isan. They didn't know. They had no idea I understood every single word. Then Yai started talking about money, about calculations. If Ploy could keep both of us going for another 6 months, they'd have enough to build a proper house, enough to open a shop, enough to secure the family's future. She said it like it was a business plan, like I was an asset, a resource to be managed. The words that haunt me, the ones I hear in my sleep, came from Ploy. She said in Isan, slowly, thoughtfully, I almost feel bad sometimes. He really loves me, I can see it in his eyes. But we need this more than he needs the truth. When he goes back to Australia, he'll be fine. He has money, he has opportunities. We have nothing. This is survival. Yai agreed, said something about how foreigners don't understand Thai family obligation, how they have so much and complain about so little, how it wasn't really stealing because I was giving willingly, how I'd probably end up thanking them one day for teaching me about the real Thailand. They laughed together. Not cruel laughter, not evil villain laughter, just casual, everyday laughter, the kind you share over tea while discussing groceries or weather. That's what killed me, how normal it sounded, how routine. I stood there for what felt like an hour, but was probably 30 seconds. My hands were shaking, the phone charger was slipping from my grip. Everything was tilting. The world I'd built, the life I'd believed in, the love I'd trusted, all of it crumbling in real time while I stood in a doorway in rural Thailand, listening to the truth in a language I wasn't supposed to understand. I forced myself to move, walked back into the kitchen like nothing had happened, handed Ploy the charger. She smiled at me. That same warm, genuine smile that had made me fall in love with her at a night market 8 months ago. She kissed my cheek, said thank you in English, asked if I was okay because I looked pale. I blamed the heat. Said I needed to go home, wasn't feeling well. Probably something I ate. She was concerned, wanted to come with me. I said no, insisted I'd be fine, just needed to sleep. I looked worried too, offered me medicine, offered to make me soup. These women who'd just been planning how to extract more money from me were now playing the role of caring family. And they were good at it. So good, I almost doubted what I'd heard, almost convinced myself I'd misunderstood. But I hadn't misunderstood. My Isan was good enough. The words were clear. The meaning was unmistakable. I rode the motorcycle back to our apartment in a daze, nearly hit a dog that ran across the road, nearly ran a red light, couldn't focus, couldn't think, just kept hearing Ploy's voice saying, I really love him, but we need this more than he needs the truth. That night, I lay in our bed while she slept next to me. She'd gotten home an hour after me, crawled into bed, curled up against me, whispered that she loved me. I stared at the ceiling fan spinning slowly above us, listening to her breathe, wondering how much of anything had ever been real. Had she ever loved me? Had any of it been genuine? Or was I just a walking ATM from the very first night at that market stall? I didn't sleep. Couldn't. My mind was racing. Around 3 a.m, I carefully got out of bed, took my laptop to the living room and started digging. If there was a Norwegian, there'd be evidence, social media, something. I created a fake Facebook profile, started searching. Udon Thani Don Norwegian expats. It took maybe 20 minutes. His name was Eric, 35 years old. From Oslo. And right there on his page, public for anyone to see, were photos of him and Ploy. Recent photos. Him with his arm around her at a temple. Her on the back of his motorcycle. A selfie of them at a restaurant I recognised in Udon Thani, dated from 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, when Ploy told me she was visiting her friend in Konkan for the weekend. His relationship status said, in a relationship. His cover photo was him and Ploy at sunset, her head on his shoulder, the comments from his friends. Beautiful girlfriend, mate. You look so happy. Thailand, treating you well. I felt sick. Actually, physically sick. Ran to the bathroom and threw up everything I'd eaten that day. Sat on the cold tile floor, sweating, shaking, trying to process what this meant. There wasn't just a Norwegian. He thought she was his girlfriend. He thought they were exclusive, just like I did. I went back to the laptop, scrolled through his photos, found ones going back 7 months. 7 months. We'd been together 9 months total, which meant she'd been with him almost the entire time she'd been with me, maybe longer. Maybe I wasn't even first. Maybe I was just the second mark in a long con. His posts mentioned sending money for family emergencies, for medical bills, for home repairs, the same emergencies, the same bills, the same repairs. My stomach dropped even further. We'd probably both paid for the same things. Double dipping. Maximizing profit. I checked my bank account, really looked at it for the first time in months. Over the past 8 months, I'd sent approximately 380,000 baht. That's nearly 16,000 Australian dollars. My savings from 3 years of mining work. Gone. The money I'd been planning to use to build our house, to start our life. To prove I was serious about staying in Thailand forever. All of it a lie. All of it a game. All of it calculated. The sun started rising. Ploy would be up soon. I had to act normal. Had to pretend everything was fine while I figured out what to do next. I closed the laptop, made coffee, stood on the balcony watching the construction workers arrive at the site across the street. Their day was starting. Their normal day. While my entire world had ended. Ploy woke up around 8, came out to the balcony, kissed the top of my head, asked if I was feeling better. I said yes. She made breakfast. We ate together. She talked about her day, about her students, about a funny thing that happened at school. I nodded and smiled and responded at the right times. An actor playing the role of boyfriend. Just like she'd been playing the role of girlfriend this entire time. After she left for work, I went through the apartment, looking for what, I wasn't sure. Evidence, proof, something. I found it in a drawer in the bedroom. Under some clothes. Yai's medical records from the hospital. I could read enough Thai now to understand them. The dates didn't match what Ploy had told me. The diagnosis wasn't what she'd claimed. The treatment was minor, routine. The bill was maybe 5,000 baht, not 30,000. We'd been lied to. Or I'd been lied to. Maybe Eric got a different story. Maybe there were different lies for different foreigners. I sat on the bed holding those papers, and something in me broke. Not anger yet. Just this profound, hollow sadness. I'd loved her. Really loved her. Loved her family. Loved this life. I'd given up everything for it. And it was all fake. All performance. All business. That evening, I told Ploy I needed to go to Bangkok for a few days. Visa stuff, I lied. She believed me. Why wouldn't she? I'd never lied to her before. Never given her reason to doubt me. I'd been the perfect mark. Trusting. Generous. Naive. I went to a cheap hostel in Udon Thani instead. Just needed space to think. Needed to be away from her. From the apartment. From the life that wasn't real. I spent 2 days in that hostel room, barely eating, barely sleeping, just trying to understand how I'd missed all the signs, how I'd been so stupid. On the 3rd day, I did something I never thought I'd do. I messaged Eric through my fake profile, told him I was a friend of Ploy's, that I needed to talk to him about something important. Could we meet for coffee? He agreed, probably thought I was another local trying to scam him. He had no idea. We met at a Starbucks in Central Plaza. I sat across from him and watched his face when I told him who I really was. The confusion. Then the understanding. Then the same sick realization I'd felt. We compared notes, timelines, money sent, promises made. The stories were almost identical. Different details, same structure. She told him she was studying to be a nurse, told me a teacher. She'd taken him to the same village, introduced him to the same family, cooked him the same meals. Everything was recycled. Everything was scripted. He'd sent over 600,000 baht, 25,000 Australian dollars. We sat there, 2 foreigners in a shopping mall in northeastern Thailand, looking at each other across coffee cups, realizing we'd both been played by the same woman. There was no anger between us, just exhaustion, just this shared humiliation. He asked me what I was going to do. I said I didn't know. Go to the police and say what? That we'd voluntarily sent money to a woman we were dating, that we'd given gifts to her family. There was no crime here. Not legally, just morally. And morals don't hold up in Thai courts, especially when you're a foreigner admitting you were stupid enough to fall for it. Eric said he was leaving Thailand next week, going back to Oslo, done with the whole thing. He'd learned his lesson. I asked him if he thought there were others. He laughed, but there was no humour in it. Of course there were others. We were just the 2 dumb enough to find each other. I went back to the hostel that night and made my decision. I had 4 weeks left on my visa. I'd confront her, tell her I knew everything, and then I'd leave Thailand and try to rebuild what was left of my life back in Australia. The money was gone, no getting it back. But maybe I could salvage some dignity, some sense of self, some belief that I wasn't completely broken. That was the plan anyway. But plans change when you're dealing with someone who's made lying into an art form. And I was about to learn that the truth, when it finally comes out, doesn't set you free. It just shows you how trapped you've been all along. I practiced what I was going to say for 2 days, rehearsed it in the hostel mirror like some kind of sad theatrical performance. I'd confront her in Isan, recite back the exact words I'd overheard, watch her face when she realized I'd understood everything. Then I'd tell her about Eric, about the evidence, about all the lies. I'd be calm, dignified. I'd walk away with my head high. That's not how it went. I came back to the apartment on a Thursday afternoon when I knew she'd be home from school. She was surprised to see me, happy even. Ran up and hugged me, said she'd missed me, asked about Bangkok, about the visa situation. I stood there with her arms around me and felt nothing. Just this cold emptiness where love used to be. I pulled back and looked at her, really looked at her, searching for some sign that she felt guilty, that she knew what was coming. But there was nothing, just her usual warm smile, her eyes full of what looked like genuine affection. She was good. So bloody good at this. I started speaking in Isan. Slowly. Clearly. Told her I'd been standing outside her mother's house that Tuesday evening. Told her I'd heard every word of the conversation in the kitchen. Every single word about the Norwegian. About the money. About keeping both of us going. About needing it more than I needed the truth. The change in her face was instant. The smile vanished. Her eyes went wide, then narrow. She took a step back from me. For about 3 seconds, she looked genuinely shocked. Caught. Exposed. Then something else took over. Something harder. Colder. She switched to Isan, spoke rapidly, defensively. Asked how long I'd been able to understand. Asked why I'd been spying on private family conversations. Turned it around on me like I was the one who'd done something wrong. Like I'd violated some trust by learning her language. I told her about Eric, about the Facebook photos, about comparing notes on all the money we'd both sent, about the medical bills that didn't match the records I'd found. I laid it all out calmly, factually, giving her every chance to explain, to apologize, to show some shred of remorse. She didn't apologize, didn't cry, didn't beg. She just shrugged. Actually, shrugged. Then launched into a justification that made my blood boil. She said in Isan that yes, she'd been seeing Eric too. Yes, she'd accepted money from both of us. But we'd both been happy, hadn't we? We'd both gotten what we wanted. I'd wanted a girlfriend, a family, a life in Thailand. She provided that. The money was just helping her family survive. Didn't I understand how hard it was for Thai people? How much foreigners had compared to them? How we could afford to lose some money while they couldn't afford not to gain it? She said I'd been happy these past months. That I'd told her multiple times this was the best period of my life. So what did it matter if there was someone else? What did it matter where the money went? I'd gotten my experience. I'd got my Thai girlfriend and my village family and my sense of purpose. Wasn't that worth $16,000? The logic was insane. But she said it like it made perfect sense. Like she'd actually done me a favor. Like I should be thanking her for the cultural experience. I asked if she'd ever actually loved me. Even a little bit. She looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something flicker in her eyes. Maybe regret. Maybe pity. She said in English this time, I liked you. You were kind. But love? How can you love someone when you need them? Need and love are different things. That's when I started yelling. Lost all the dignity and composure I planned. Told her she was a liar and a thief and a manipulator. She yelled back that I was a stupid foreigner who thought money could buy a real relationship. That I'd been using her too. Using her to feel like a hero. Using her to escape my boring Australian life. Using her family to feel important. We were both using each other, she said. I just didn't want to admit it. Maybe she had a point. Maybe I'd been using her in some way. Using this whole experience to feel alive, to feel needed, to feel like I mattered. But at least I'd been honest about my feelings. At least I'd believed in us. At least I hadn't been running a con. The argument went on for an hour. Circular, pointless. She wasn't going to apologize. I wasn't going to forgive. Finally, I told her I was leaving. Going back to Australia. She could keep all the money, keep the motorcycle, keep everything. I just wanted out. She said fine. Said it would probably be easier for everyone this way. Then, and this is what really got me, she asked if I'd tell Eric. Asked me not to ruin what she had with him. Said she actually cared about him more than she'd cared about me. Like that was supposed to hurt less. Like ranking my place in her affections was somehow appropriate. I told her Eric already knew. Told her we'd met. Her face fell for the first time. Real panic. She asked if he was leaving too. I said yes. She actually looked upset about that. Not about losing me. About losing him. About losing the income streams. About the plan falling apart. That's when her mother showed up. Yai had somehow heard about the confrontation and came to the apartment. She started yelling at me and Isan before she even got through the door, accusing me of manipulating Ploy, of trying to control her, of being a typical foreigner who expected Thai women to be servants. The hypocrisy was stunning. This woman who'd planned how to extract maximum money from me was now playing the protective mother role. I responded in Isan, told her I'd understood every conversation, every calculation, every laugh at my expense. The look on her face was almost worth the $16,000. Almost. She switched tactics immediately. Started crying, saying I didn't understand Thai culture, didn't understand family obligation, didn't understand how hard life was for them. Maybe that was true. Maybe I didn't understand. But I understood betrayal. I understood lies. Those were universal. Sonchai arrived next, Ploy having called him. He stood in the doorway looking uncomfortable, not meeting my eyes. The brother who'd taken me fishing, who called me Phi, older brother, who taught me to catch frogs in the rice paddies. He wouldn't even look at me now. I asked him in Isan if he'd known, if he'd been part of it. He just shook his head and left. I never got an answer, but his silence said enough. I packed my things that night while Ploy stayed at her mother's house. Didn't take much. Most of what I owned in Thailand wasn't worth bringing back anyway. Clothes, some books, my laptop. Left the motorcycle keys on the counter. Left the kitchen stuff we'd bought together. Left everything that reminded me of the life I'd thought I was building. I moved to a different hostel, closer to the city centre. Spent my last 3 weeks in Thailand in a kind of fugue state, walking around Udon Thani during the day, seeing places Ploy and I had been together, watching couples on motorcycles and wondering if they were real or if everyone was running some version of the same game, eating alone at restaurants where we'd eaten together, avoiding the night market where we'd met because I couldn't handle the memories. I met Eric one more time before he flew out. We got properly drunk at an expat bar, trading war stories like soldiers back from battle. He told me about a German guy he'd found online who'd sent Ploy's family over 800,000 baht. Never even dated Ploy, just sent money because she'd asked nicely and he was lonely. There were others too, we realised. A whole network of foreign men who'd fallen for the same family, the same story, the same strategy. We weren't special. We were just marks, dot numbers, in a ledger. Eric left for Oslo on a Tuesday, promised to stay in touch, but we both knew we wouldn't. Too much shame in the shared experience. Too much reminder of our collective stupidity. I never heard from him again. The nights were the worst. Lying in a cheap hostel bed with gecko noises and traffic sounds, replaying everything. Trying to figure out what had been real and what had been performance. That first night at the market, had the smile been genuine? The village visits, had the family warmth been authentic or rehearsed? The intimate moments, the conversations about the future, the way she'd looked at me sometimes like I was the only person in the world, had any of it meant anything? I couldn't tell. That was the cruelest part, not knowing what to trust, not knowing if every good memory was tainted or if some small part of it had been real. Maybe she had liked me in her way. Maybe the family had enjoyed having me around. Maybe it wasn't all calculated, just mostly calculated. But what difference did it make? The foundation was lies. Everything built on it was suspect. I thought about going to the police. Spend a whole day researching Thai law, reading expat forums, trying to figure out if there was any legal recourse. But the money had been gifts. Voluntary transfers. No contract. No written agreement. No proof of fraud in any legal sense. Just a stupid foreigner who'd fallen in love and sent money to his girlfriend's family. The police would laugh me out of the station. The embassy would offer sympathy, but no help. I was on my own. The language skills that had revealed the truth now felt like a curse. If I hadn't learned Isan, I'd have gone on believing, maybe for years. Maybe I'd have married her, built the house, lived that life in ignorant bliss until the money ran out and she moved on to the next mark. Would that have been better? Part of me thought yes. The happy lie versus the devastating truth. Which poison do you choose? But deep down I knew. I'd made the right choice, learning the language. Because living a lie, even a comfortable one, would have destroyed me eventually. Better to lose $16,000 in 8 months than to lose years and hundreds of thousands and maybe my sanity when the truth finally emerged. I flew back to Perth on a grey November morning. My parents picked me up from the airport. They didn't say I told you so. They just hugged me and took me home and gave me my old room back, like I was 18 again, instead of 28. I moved in temporarily, told them I needed a few months to get back on my feet, mentally, financially, emotionally. My mates were sympathetic, but I could see the judgment. The unspoken, what did you expect? The warnings they'd given me before I left, warnings I'd ignored because I'd been so certain I'd found something special. They didn't rub it in, but I felt it anyway. The shame of being the guy who fell for the Thai girlfriend scam. The walking cliché. I picked up contract work in logistics. Easy jobs that didn't require much brain power. Paid enough to rebuild my savings slowly. Started seeing a therapist because the anger and sadness weren't going away on their own. She helped me understand that what I'd experienced was a form of emotional abuse, that the manipulation and lies and calculated deception had left real trauma, that it was okay to feel betrayed, to feel stupid, to feel angry. That healing would take time. I still have the Isan phrasebook Ploy gave me in those early days. It's sitting in a drawer in my room. Her handwriting in the margins where she'd written extra words and corrections. I can't throw it away. It's evidence of what I wanted to be real. Evidence of the effort I put in, the commitment I showed, the love I believed in. Sometimes I take it out and flip through it, reading her notes, remembering the version of her I fell in love with. Maybe that version existed for a moment, maybe it didn't. I'll never know. The money still stings. $16,000 would have bought a car, funded travel, been a house deposit, gone in 8 months to feed a lie. But honestly, the money isn't what haunts me. It's the trust, the belief, the willingness to be vulnerable that I gave so completely and had weaponized against me. That's what I can't get back. That's what she actually stole. I'm healing though, slowly. It's been 6 months since I left Udon. I can talk about it now without feeling like I'm going to throw up. I can see Thai restaurants and not have panic attacks. I can hear Thai language and not immediately feel rage or sadness. Small victories, but there's something. I don't hate Thai people. I don't even really hate Ploy anymore. I'm angry at myself more than anything. For ignoring red flags. For wanting so badly to believe in something that I stopped thinking critically. For confusing intensity with authenticity. For thinking that because something felt real, it must be real. Would I do it again? Move abroad for love? Take a chance on something unconventional? Honestly, I don't know. Right now, the answer is no. The wound is too fresh. The lesson too painful. But maybe someday. Maybe when I've rebuilt myself enough to trust again. Maybe when I've learned to balance hope with wisdom, openness with caution, generosity with boundaries. What I learned, what I tell anyone considering what I did, is this. Learn the language, but also learn the context. Understand the economic realities. Understand the power dynamics. Understand that desperation makes people do things they wouldn't otherwise do, and that doesn't make them evil, just human. But also understand that you don't have to be the solution to someone else's poverty. That love shouldn't cost your life savings. That real relationships are built on honesty, not need. I can't change what happened. Can't get back the money or the time or the version of myself that believed so completely in happy endings. But I can warn the next guy, the next lonely foreigner looking for love and purpose in a place that promises both if you just stop asking questions. That's why I'm telling this story. Not for sympathy, not for revenge, just so someone else might pause before they send that first transfer, before they ignore that first red flag, before they choose comfortable lies over uncomfortable truths. Thailand is still beautiful. The culture is still rich. The people are still kind, by and large. This isn't a country problem. It's a human problem. Desperation meeting opportunity. Poverty meeting privilege. Everyone trying to survive in whatever way they can. I was just naive enough to think I was exempt from the calculations, that my love was special enough to transcend the economics. It wasn't. I wasn't. But I'm still here. Still standing. Still learning. And maybe that's enough. So that's James's story. And before we wrap this up, I want to say something important. This isn't about villainizing Thai women or any women. This isn't about painting all cross-cultural relationships as scams. Some of them are beautiful and real and last forever. This is about the dangerous intersection of economic desperation and emotional vulnerability. About what happens when someone in poverty meets someone with privilege, and survival instinct overrides everything else. James learned a brutal lesson about trust and cultural context. He learned that understanding language isn't the same as understanding intent, that you can speak someone's dialect fluently and still completely misread the situation, that words are only part of the story. If you're watching this and thinking about a relationship abroad, about moving for love, about helping your partner's family financially, please learn from James. Ask hard questions, move slowly, keep your eyes open. Real love doesn't rush. Real family doesn't demand. Real relationships can survive you setting boundaries around money. And if you've been where James has been, if you've had your trust weaponized and your generosity exploited, know this: you're not stupid, you're not weak, you're human. You wanted to believe in something beautiful, and someone used that against you. That says more about them than it says about you. James is rebuilding. He'll love again, he'll trust again, though probably more carefully. He'll look back on Udon Thani someday without the sharp pain he feels now, just a bittersweet memory of the time he learned that sometimes the hardest lessons cost the most. If you've got a similar story, drop it in the comments. This community is judgment-free. We've all made choices that look different in hindsight. We've all trusted the wrong person. We've all paid tuition to the school of hard knocks. You're not alone. And if you're watching from Thailand, from Isan, from anywhere, and you've seen this pattern play out, share your perspective. Help us understand the other side. Because the truth is never simple. And understanding comes from hearing all voices, not just the ones that confirm what we already believe. Thanks for watching Bargirl Baddies. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. There are more stories to tell, more lessons to learn, more truth to uncover. And remember, whether you're in Perth or Pattaya, whether you're seeking love or running from loneliness, the most important relationship you can build is the one with yourself. Everything else comes after. Until next time, stay safe, stay smart, and stay honest, especially with yourself.